Are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? If you're a woman, you're not alone. With over 1,000 hormone disruptors in our environment, it's no wonder things can feel out of balance. On top of that, natural changes like PMS, menopause, and other life stages can leave you feeling tired, irritable, and trapped in a constant battle with your body. But here's the good news. You don't have to suffer through it. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is here to help. This herbal formula fine-tunes your hormones, balancing estrogen, testosterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol, which can contribute to weight gain, racing thoughts, poor sleep, and more. With over 40,000 five-star reviews and a bottle selling every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. Ready to feel like yourself again? For a limited time, get 15% off your first order at happymammoth.com using code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
Everything is better on a boat, and your vacation is no exception. This year, experience the world's most beautiful destinations aboard your own private yacht charter with the Moorings. Our fleet of modern, custom-designed yachts is just one reason we were recently voted Best Caribbean Yacht Charter Company by readers of Caribbean Journal. So when you next explore the Virgin Islands, the Bahamas, or elsewhere, don't accept anything less than the Moorings. Your vacation time is precious, so make the most of your freedom on the water. Book your perfect charter at moorings.com. Nothing less than the Moorings.
This is episode 371 of Wheel Bearings. I am Sam Abu-Al-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
And I am Nicole Wakeland from Carbuzz.
And I am Roberto Baldwin from SAE International.
Welcome back, Nicole.
Thank you. Sorry, I got stuck in Venice, which isn't as fun as you might think. Go home.
Did you eat anything good?
I ate lots of good stuff. I ate pasta and chocolate in Switzerland, and I drank so much really good European coffee. It warmed my soul. So yeah, it was fantastic.
All right. And some good pastries, I assume?
I did. I had very many pastries. Our one hotel was around the corner from this chocolate shop / patisserie that has been there for 100 and some odd years. It was like, it's right there. Like, walk out the door, bam, pastry, coffee, and chocolate. It was so cool.
If it's there, you have to do it. You have to.
You can't just walk by and ignore something like that.
That would be sacrilegious.
It's the law.
It's the law. You must stop. So I did every morning and a couple times in the afternoon.
All right. Well, what have you been driving?
I drove before I left, and I drove the Honda Prologue, which is
it's not an amateur log. It's a Prologue.
It's a Prologue, which is I don't know what to make.
It's a preview of something better or something else that's coming up.
Right. And I kind of hate it when they do this. It's like, well, this isn't going to be what we're doing, but we're going to do this. Why? Like, do what you're going to do. Give us the good stuff. Don't, in the middle. So here's the deal. So it's an EV. It's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's just nothing exceptional about it. It has kind of a fine interior. It's got enough room. It's just 2 rows. It has decent infotainment system. It has like all the right stuff. There's just nothing inspired about this. It's it feels more GM because it was made like what you say, co-developed, I guess, with General Motors.
Or kind of a stretch. Yeah.
Or like there was GM-ness involved in this. I don't know how, because it's on that Ultium platform. So there's
not Ultium anymore.
It's not Ultium anymore, but it was the Ultium platform is what.
So what do we call it? That's the thing. We're not going to use the Ultium platform. I'm like, well, forward facing. What would you say? Their electric platform?
The platform formerly known as Ultium. I don't know.
There we go. The platform formerly known as Ultium. They're in a fight with Warner Brothers over licensing. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah. So I mean, and you have a single motor or dual motor. You also have this like dual motor in the Elite trim. So the range varies between these. You get anywhere from 273 to 296 miles of range, depending on the configuration you get. It does DC fast charging at 10 to 80%, about 35 minutes. Everything's fine. Nothing's wrong. That's actually a solid range. The range is pretty good. There's a lot of lower range vehicles out there. Charging speed isn't especially speedy quick, but it's enough. I feel like this is a good, like with a lot of EVs though, it's not something that you're necessarily going to want to road trip. And truly, how often do you road trip, right? So it's a great, if you're looking for an EV, you can plug it in at home. If you do need to go out and you're road tripping in it, well, you just got to plan a little bit more like you do with any of them. It's priced, the whole range, every trim is available for the $7,500 tax credit. If you purchase one built, which you should be fine at this point, after February 26, 2024. So there's a build date issue there. But if you're leasing, it doesn't matter. You get the $7,500 tax credit if you're leasing, no matter when yours was built. I'd imagine I don't know, how fast is this moving? I would hope in October that everything is built after that date. So you're probably fine. But $47,400 is your base price and $57,900 is your top trim. I had the Elite, I had the top trim, and I don't know that that's the thing, for $57,900, it just didn't look exceptional inside. It didn't look bad. It just I feel like other cars do it better. And it had plenty, the acceleration was strong, but it wasn't that crazy EV acceleration. It was just nice EV acceleration. So it's very mild mannered. I will do just what I need to do, but nothing more.
Fine.
Is how it's
on the Prologue.
It's fine.
It's fine. What's the base? 47?
47,400. And then once you take off the tax credit, you're looking at 39,900. So once you do, when you put that math in there, it gets a little bit more affordable. But I feel like I don't think I would buy this. Have you guys driven the Prologue?
I did. I drove it last spring when they did the media drive.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be driving one again in a few weeks. And yeah, you're right. It's perfectly adequate. It doesn't have, given its size, because basically what they did is you've got the Blazer dimensions, so bigger, longer wheelbase of a Blazer, this larger body of a Blazer, but with the smaller battery and lower power motors of the Equinox. And so it doesn't have that, jump off the line feeling of most EVs,
right?
Which actually for most people is probably fine.
Most people probably prepare. Yeah.
The bigger issue I had with it was, for a sticker price of $47,000,
right?
The interior feels kind of cheap. It's
does.
all hard plastics.
It feels like it weirdly feels like it makes me think of GM and the worst of GM, like the trims and the base trims that we don't like, that are like plastic fantastic. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel Honda to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Honda normally has a nicer interior, a little bit more upscale, a little more eye-catching, especially as you get to the top. And this didn't feel Honda enough for me. If you told me this was a Chevy, I'd probably be less.
Our Civic feels more premium than the Prologue does.
Right? And it just shouldn't, for that pricing. It shouldn't feel this way. So that's a disappointment.
It has a smaller battery than the Blazer, right?
Yeah, it's the 10 module battery.
Because the Blazer feels so heavy.
I didn't think this.
The Blazer feels just like, oh, and then you get in a lyric and you're like, oh, this is so nice. But the Blazer just feels like, bleh.
I mean, I don't know that I thought that it felt especially heavy. I mean, you felt
that smaller battery will probably help.
Felt the weight of it, so it wasn't like, I don't know but I don't think it felt. It definitely didn't feel like light on its feet. Like you knew you were in something that had some substance to it.
Right.
It is several hundred pounds lighter than a Blazer. Mm-hmm. So smaller battery. It doesn't have as much of the premium equipment in there. I mean, getting rid of the soft touch materials saves you some weight. I mean, I think there's a bunch of stuff that they did to try to minimize the weight in the Prologue. So it is a bit lighter. It doesn't feel quite as it doesn't feel as heavy as the Blazer does. And it's not. But it also is not exciting.
Yeah, it's just not exciting. It truly, like, I know we say something's, it's fine. It's like you're insulting it, but it is just fine. There's nothing really wrong with it. There's nothing really exceptional with it. The struggle for me is like, what would make this something to recommend to somebody? You really like Hondas? Like, if you're like a Honda loyalist and you really want an EV from Honda, or like kind of want to say like, just wait a little bit.
Yeah, just wait.
This one hold. You have to, okay, but like Like, what was the reason that you could give? Like, why would you recommend the Honda over some other thing? Like, would you, having driven it, Sam?
I would definitely recommend it over a Toyota BZ4X.
Oh, okay, that because it has the worst little dashboard design in the history of dashboards.
Yeah, well, and it's got a lot more range. I mean, it does have good range.
It does.
It's very roomy. And it looks decent. I like the design.
Okay.
It's a nice clean design. It's not exciting, but it's a clean design.
Okay.
So I would absolutely take it over the BZ4X or Solterra, or.
But are there other things you'd recommend before this? Like,
Yes.
I know there's things you would recommend less than this, but see, that's it. There's things that are better than this. There's too many things that are better than this.
I mean, it's solidly mid pack.
Yeah.
Lower mid pack.
I'd say lower mid pack. That's fair.
The exact same starting price. You can get the Ioniq 5 SEL trim.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah,
and I'm sure the EV6 is probably within a couple $100 of that. And then
yeah,
both of which are nicer, more fun, more engaging cars to drive. So see, so that no.
I feel like we're gonna get the real Honda EV with the their own platform.
I don't like it when they do these this is a collab kind of thing. We're kind of doing this, or this isn't what we're going to be doing. It's just, well, then don't do it. Don't do it. Just hold.
Yeah, I figure I think they felt like they had been left behind and they had to have something.
Yeah.
Which, on one hand, you're like, yeah, it'd be nice if you guys were showing off something, but Honda's. I mean, the big thing with Honda is engineering. Like they got some wizards working over there at Honda. I mean, they essentially destroyed understeer with the Type R. How? Nobody knows. Just imagine. They got some wizards, and I think once they put their wizard hats on and start working on their own EV platform, or they're currently working on their own EV platform, I would like to think that it's going to be pretty cool. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I feel like this was just like, we got to do something. Oh God.
Yeah. That's kind of what it feels like. That's how it feels driving. Like, okay, they did it. They got a thing. Woo-hoo.
It's like they woke up the day before the big test was due and they just started cramming for their cramming. Oh, I got a final tomorrow. Give me 3 Red Bulls. I'm ready to rock.
Give me 3 Red Bulls and a battery. I got this.
3 Red Bulls and a battery. Boom.
Okay. Anything else on the Prologue?
No, that's it.
All right, Robbie. Wait. We didn't do destination charge.
Oh.
Sorry. No, I just put it. Talk to Robbie. I just shut down the thing I had with it in it. Sorry, because I thought it was done. So talk to Robbie while I reload the screen.
All right, tell us more about the Hummer.
So this is week 2 of the Hummer. I didn't do the range run. I just didn't even bother. It gets 1.5 miles per kilowatt hour. That's what I can tell you. And that's just regular driving around town, mixed, on the freeway, mostly not on the freeway. I don't know, man.
I get a number for you. Wait, I'll interrupt you. Okay, shoot for your destination. What do you think it is for the Prologue?
Oh, Prologue, 1,300.
$1,695.
Ooh, it's $1,395. Nicely done, Robbie.
Oh, wow.
Now back to go, Robbie. Go, Robbie.
The Hummer EV. It starts at 104. The one 103. The one I had was 109. It was cool to take the top off. Take the little T-top off. One of the 4 T-tops. The glass thing. It was nice to have it somewhere to put it, which was the giant frunk. So I think that's really smart of them to say, hey, you can take this off, but here's a place you can put it. So when you get somewhere and you're like, oh, I don't want to just leave my car with the top off, or the other side of that is I have them with me, but they're just like rattling around in the trunk or they're rattling around in the back seat. So that was nice. Again, it's I showed it to some people and they were just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then some other people are like, this is just the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Why is this even reality? And again, I think that's where we're all at with this vehicle, to be honest. I think it's definitely a Hummer. If you want to build a Hummer, that's an EV. This is exactly what you build. I still think it would be about 1,000 times better if it was half or 3/4 its size. We talked about that last week, Sam. And God, extra time with it. A lot of my automotive journalism friends were like, well, after you get rid of it, you're gonna kind of want one. Kind of. You don't really want one, but kind of. You kind of want one.
Do you kind of want one?
Not really. I kind of want one that's smaller is what I want. I kind of want something that has all the sort of like over the top bells and whistles, but isn't as tall as, a barn, or I don't feel like I'm driving a barn around, because it doesn't feel like it has a lot of cargo space. Even it's just that it's tall. It's not that it's like big.
It's also very wide.
Mm-hmm.
It's tall and wide, which doesn't really do much for you. So yeah, the Hummer EV, the SUV, it takes a special person to buy it. I think it's like the Cybertruck. It is a very niche vehicle that is extremely polarizing. But unlike the Cybertruck, there are like actual uses for it. Like they did have us take it off road when we first drove the truck version. I have driven the SUV in an insane storm where I got pushed off the road and essentially tossed half the car into a ditch. Ooh. And I was already under 2 feet of water, and so the ditch was 4 feet of water, and I was able to get it out, no problem. So there is it does do the thing it's supposed to do. So it is definitely capable of being what it says it is, which is nice. I don't think most people who buy it are going to do that thing. It's incredibly inefficient just because of its size and its weight. But at the end of the day, if I lived in Alaska and I were rich and I had like a bunch of solar panels in my Alaskan estate, or some windmills or whatever,
those wouldn't do you much good 6 months out of the year.
Well, that's why I have the windows as well. The windmills are for winter
okay.
time. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I feel like there's other vehicles I would probably get. The 3 windshield wipers, awesome. But then I was talking to someone with an FJ Cruiser, and he's like, "Look, mine has 3 windshield wipers."
Well, it's because the windshield is so wide, but not very tall.
Yeah, it's like flat. It's like you're looking. Yeah. When you see the movies where they're watching like a nuclear explosion off in the distance. That's like the window. It's like wide, but not very tall.
It's like a mail slot.
Yeah, it's like a giant mail slot.
It's the opposite of the Cybertruck windshield, which is huge and square.
This is giant
like the slot
windshield wiper.
Yeah.
But it's, you know what? It just made me really want that. And then after seeing that FJ Cruiser, it just made me really mad at Toyota for not giving us the tiny FJ Cruiser EV they teased a few years ago. So that's my Hummer review. Wait for the tiny FJ Cruiser EV from Toyota. The company that's or I also driving it made me think, man, I would really love like a Wrangler, like a soft top Wrangler EV. Man, that would be awesome. That's driving the Hummer made me think about other vehicles that are smaller, but are capable for a thing that I don't ever do, which is drive off road.
Yeah.
But if
I did,
even for going off road, it's not great because it's so wide and so heavy. A lot of trails it just doesn't even fit.
Yeah, you can get through.
Yeah.
And then because it's so heavy, if you're going up steep inclines and stuff like that, it struggles with that because just trying to get enough traction.
It's hauling 8,600 pounds.
Yeah.
8,600 pounds. How much does your Miata weigh, by the way?
Just over 2,000 pounds.
So it's over 4 Miatas.
Yeah.
4 Miatas or one Hummer.
It's like one Miata dragging 3 1/4 Miatas up a hill. Or 3. So yeah, I think I do like the idea that they made the 400 volt system, and they trick you into 800 volt when you're charging it, which is great because I got to charge at 300, which it charges really quick, but it's never quick enough
because the battery is so huge.
Because you're like, oh my god, this is charging really quickly. Mm-hmm. And then I realized like, no, my Ioniq, I have a video that's going to go up with me and Peter, the CEO of Lucid, where at one point we talk about charging is that instead of giving you times, we should be talking about how many miles per minute are you adding. Like it's between 10 and 20, 80%. Like how many miles per minute are you adding to this vehicle? Because efficiency, that's going to make a big deal, because you're just telling someone 10 to 80% and X amount of time. You're like, oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah. But you don't realize how many miles that adds. So how many miles per minute, I think, is So the miles per minute charging rate, even though it's 300, isn't great because it's also a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack. Whereas my 230 kilowatt hour Ioniq 5, I drove to LA and back this past week for the Tesla event, and I never spent more than 15 minutes at a charger. And until I was on the phone with someone, and I went past 80%. It was like 99% by the time I stopped because it was like a 30-minute phone call. So anyway,
Well,
Hummer EV, move out to the middle of nowhere.
To their credit, GM actually does, on the specs of their vehicles, they do talk about, miles per minute, or how many miles you add in like 10 minutes of charging. And I'm not sure what it is for the Hummer. Let's see.
It's not much. I can tell you that, having sat in the Hummer for 10 minutes, charging at 300 kilowatts. You're like, all right, I'm like, all right, this won't be too long. And after 30 minutes,
so it says it adds nearly 100 miles of range in 10 minutes of charging. So 10 miles a minute. But that's actually not that great compared to some other stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, Hummer EV, it is what it is essentially what it comes down to. Part of you is going to love it because everyone has a child inside of them. But the adult part that has to pay taxes and wants to be able to park their vehicle is going to be like, eh. Again, the all-wheel steering is top notch. That is just outstanding for that vehicle. So anyway, Hummer EV. That's my week two of the Hummer EV extravaganza. I did not take it off-roading. I didn't do a thing. I did drive over a few curbs just because I figured I might as well.
You could.
But it's so nimble. I don't know if nimble. It's so maneuverable because that all-wheel steering that even when you go around corners in the parking lot, like you're just like, whoo, you miss the curbs entirely. So that's really nice.
Nicole, you want to guess at the destination charge?
Oh gosh.
I feel like it should be like $1 million zillion.
Oh, we did this last week, and Nicole. Okay.
Oh, was that you guys? You already know that.
Did we do it? Did we do it last week?
Yeah, we did. It was like really high.
Okay.
Guess Nicole.
I'm gonna go 24.
Actually, not. You're not far off. What was it? I think it's 21.95.
It was. Wait. 22.95.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty darn close. Okay.
Pretty close. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. All that weight adds up.
Well, yeah. This one, it seems like, okay, fine. It's so heavy. Hummer EV. It's a thing that's out there in the world. And, I guess that's a thing you want.
Somebody out there is very happy with their.
That's the thing is I don't hate it, but I don't actually want it.
I don't hate it either, but I definitely don't want one in my driveway.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun to drive around, and I'm like, please take this away. It's like a supercar. Like how supercars are fun, but I don't want a supercar.
You don't want
like if I become incredibly rich, I probably still won't buy a supercar because I'm just like, it's gonna get why.
Well, then you could have the supercar be one of your cars. You're incredibly rich. You have a supercar. You have a Hummer. You got a Miata from Sam. You got a bunch of cars.
Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia, and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. We've updated the Wheel Bearings merch store, and now there's a whole bunch of new choices, new colors, new styles, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, travel mugs, stickers, aprons, tote bags, you name it. You can get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Go check it out. That's shop.wheelbearings.media. All right. Well, I was supposed to have a VW Golf R, but the day before I got a note saying, yeah, Golf R is not going to be ready. We're going to send you a GTi instead. And I said, okay, fine.
I'm going to tell you right now, I've driven both. You know which one's better?
The GTi.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've driven the R briefly before a couple of years ago at the Mama Spring Rally, and I actually drove the GTi and the Golf R back to back. Actually, it's probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I think it was actually the previous generation. And the Golf R is more powerful. They both have a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine. But the Golf R has like a little over 300 horsepower. The GTi, I think, is about 240. They're tuned differently. But the GTi is front wheel drive, whereas the Golf R is all wheel drive. And the Golf R, has higher limits. It is faster than a GTi, but it doesn't feel as much fun to drive because it's so buttoned down. It doesn't really feel tossable. And the GTi just feels so much more nimble.
Yeah, it feels like on paper the R is the winner, but when you drive it, you're like, this just feels like they've bird off all the edges, all the fun bits.
All the fun
They've
gone.
sanded it down, shined it up, and here you go. Here's your boring R.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh.
Enjoy the board.
But then you get in the GTi, you're like, hey, cool.
Yeah. So I had the GTi with the 6-speed manual, which is nice. One of the fun details, it used to be in the old days, GTIs always had the shift knob was like a golf ball. It was a spherical shift knob, all dimpled like a golf ball. And the current generation has gone to what is mostly a more typical shift lever and shift knob. That is more form fitting to your hand. But on the back side of it, or really on the front side of it, the side facing away from you, wrapped around, there's a surface that is dimpled like a golf ball. So when you put your hand on it, you wrap your hand around the shifter, and your fingertips feel the dimples on there.
That's cute.
Yeah.
I like that. Nice.
Yeah.
I still feel like they could just gave us the golf ball.
It's like,
Yeah.
no. You're saying, Robbie, no, unacceptable.
Come on, I have a cue ball for the shift knob on my BRZ, and after using that, like within like 5 minutes of putting it on, well, this is much better than the standard shift knob. And my wife got it, she's like, oh my god, don't ever put that other shift knob back on this car.
So yeah,
These are a ball.
So the shifter's good. The one thing I did notice driving it is when I was shifting, especially when I was upshifting, when you lift off the accelerator, when you upshift, it seemed like the gearing was a little off. So what would happen, especially from first to second to third, it seemed like the gear spacing was a little bit too wide. And so what would happen is, if I lift off, clutch in, lift off, and the revs wouldn't drop far enough. And so sometimes it would have a slightly jerky shift because the engine speed was still a little bit too high for where it needed to be for the ratios. And so I'd actually have to slow down when I was shifting and wait a little bit longer before letting the clutch back out again, make sure to let the revs drop far enough. Because if you shift too fast, you get a little bit of jerkiness because of that. So that was a little annoying. Although on the other hand, if you double clutch, then the timing works out perfectly. So it's really designed for double clutching. So if you're going to get one of these, just double clutch it and you'll be fine. So it just means just pump the clutch pedal twice instead of just once. The seats are great in this one. I like the overall size of the Golf. Back seat, is roomy enough. You got decent amount of cargo space in the back. It's comfortable to drive. Unfortunately, the current generation, the Mark 8 Golf, all of the Mark 8 Golfs have the same type of at the bottom of the touchscreen, the infotainment screen, you got the touch controls for the volume and the temperature, which really, we've talked about it in the ID4. It sucks in the ID4. It sucks here. It's like, just give me a volume knob and, give me either a toggle or some sort of physical control for the temperature. It would be much better. This one, the infotainment system, the infotainment software in here still has, kind of an older generation of VW's voice control, which frankly, not great. So, I highly recommend that if you're going to, if you're going to drive one of these, just plug in your phone and use Siri or Google Assistant. Works much, much, much better. The native voice recognition it's not good. And they haven't yet updated these with, the ChatGPT integration, which should enable more natural language interaction with the voice recognition. Because if you ask it to do something that it doesn't recognize, then it's supposed to send it off to ChatGPT. I don't think the Golf is going to be getting that.
Good.
Yeah.
What do I need from Chat? I mean, what other information do you need at this point? Like, I need to get to where I'm going. Like, who's married to Nicole Kidman? I guess that's something I could ask it for Chat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the thing that's actually useful about the ChatGPT stuff is, if you ask it to do something, like input a navigation destination, and you do it, and your syntax doesn't match what it's looking for, it sends it to ChatGPT to translate it and then send it back to the navigation system. And so it translates it into syntax that the nav system knows how to interpret. And so that should be better, but I don't think the Golf is. I know the Atlas is getting it. I don't know if the Golf is getting that update or not. But like I said, just use your phone, plug in your phone, and you'll be good. It's much, much better.
You can just ask your phone all that stuff.
Yeah.
Not the Nicole Kidman thing, I don't think. Well, I don't know. I'll find out later, I guess.
Yeah, I think you probably could. Although
while driving,
while
you're driving, sometimes it'll be like, I can't answer that while you're driving. Some things you'll ask it.
Yeah.
I don't really ask Siri enough dumb questions, is what I'm coming down. What it comes down to. So I'll start doing that.
My other complaint with the GTi is the color that was on this moonstone gray. So boring.
Moonstone gray. I have to look up and see what
it's awful. I mean, it's just
gray.
Yeah, it's the grayest gray you'll ever see.
Oh, it is it's just.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if it's on the moon; still gray. Moon's not exactly a colorful place.
It's not boring. I guess it is. Okay.
No one's going to the moon for a rave, is what I'm saying. It's just not very colorful or fun, and so maybe don't do that with your car. Maybe ask Mazda to paint it for them.
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah, the Moonstone Gray, it's like camouflage. It just blends into the background. So I mean, the plus side is, you could go speeding past a speed trap and they'll never even see you. They'll say, I mean, my radar is saying this guy was going 95 miles an hour, but I didn't see anybody. There was nobody there.
Just a gray.
It's like, it's a
Just
stealth color.
There you go. It's a sleeper color.
Yeah.
It's just.
But it is fun to drive. The handling's really good. It still feels very nimble. It feels like what you expect a Golf to feel like. It has that sprightly feel that you lose with the Golf R. And so it's great in that respect. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's a fun car to drive. Just, order it in one of the more interesting colors. And they do have some decent colors. But the Moonstone Gray is not the one.
It's funny because they spec these cars for, like, the automakers spec these for us for, to put out into the review fleet. And so they know that we're going to take photos, we're going to do videos with these things, we're going to drive them around, we're going to put them on our social, and they're like, gray.
Yeah.
I always wonder, like, why was someone speccing this car at this color? Like, what? Don't you want something that people like, eye-catching? It's going to pop in, like, on a website or in a magazine or wherever you put it on. But instead,
yeah. Let me see what are the colors they. Oh, they have a really nice red. The King's Red Metallic with the black roof. Very nice.
Yeah.
And the Atlantic Blue is also a really good color. It's a darker blue. Looks really sharp. But the Moonstone Gray, just boring. There's also a graphite gray, also extremely boring.
Boring.
Yeah. So
like?
get the red or the blue.
Yeah.
Get a fun color, people. Don't get a boring color.
Yes. Do the world a favor. Do yourself a favor. Give yourself a car. Fun to look at.
When you come out of the store and you look into the parking lot, there's nothing nicer than being like, oh, there's my car. Because your car is a bright blue color, like our old car. Not like now with my white car. Like, I don't know where the hell my car is. I'm just looking out into a sea of white and gray cars. I'm like, I don't know where the hell it's at.
So
is that it?
total MSRP. This was the 380 Autobahn, which is pretty much loaded. It had heads-up display and all kinds of other stuff on there. $42,170. Yeah,
that's a top end crazy one.
So guesses on the destination charge?
$1,295.
Oh, I was gonna say it. I'll go $1,195.
Nicole wins it. $1,150.
Yeah.
Oh, 50.
You're on a roll today.
I am on a roll today.
All right, let's move on to some news. The Jeep Compass has been around for a while in its current form. And we're finally
you don't remember it at all until you see one. You're like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah. This week Jeep released a teaser sketch of the next generation Compass. It's finally coming. It's going to be built on the Stella Medium platform. And it's going to be available with a variety of propulsion systems, a multi-energy propulsion system strategy. So that means there's going to be electric and hybrid and gas versions of this. And it's going to be debuting first in Europe in 2025. We don't get a new one here until 2026.
Oof.
But
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, after we stop, like 30 seconds after we stop talking about this, I'm going to forget about the Compass all over again. It's just one of those cars. You're like, oh yeah, the Compass. It's like the Trax.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the Trax was a car.
Like, oh, who knew?
Who knew? That's the Compass in my brain. Hopefully they can pull an Equinox where, like, you're like, oh, like no one cared about the Equinox till the latest version of the Equinox.
What do you think of the sketch here? The overall shape of this thing.
I mean, it's such a teaser. I mean, there's not a lot.
Is it longer? Is it?
It's hard to tell if it's bigger or not.
It almost looks a little squished, not insulting, but like shorter. And I think that I can't tell if that's that's what's making it look longer, or if it really is longer, but it doesn't look as boxy. It looks more squished.
Yeah.
It's
It does look like it's kind of got the new Jeep design language.
Yeah,
to it.
it does, definitely.
Yeah, a little more vertical grill. The short, wide grill. 7-slot grill that's more vertical than it is on the current generation. Kind of like what we see on the Grand Cherokee and the Wagoneer. So
I like it. I mean, that little tiny clip looks nice, but it's so hard to see. Like these teasers sometimes, like you guys can't tell.
And it's also like a rendition of it that a designer did, and the rendition that like every car looks super awesome when the designer's like sketching it out, and then you see the car like, oh,
I'm like, no, that's not what
he's like, yeah, don't you see? They're the same car. Like, no, they're not, man. It's like me drawing a house and you drawing a house. Like my house is just a box with some triangles. Your house looks beautiful with shrubbery. That's the difference right now.
Well, for our listeners in Europe, you will be able to get one of these sometime next year. We will, here in the home of Jeep, we'll have to wait until 2026.
Wah, wah.
Yeah.
Womp, womp. Tell us all about it, Europe. We're eagerly awaiting until I forget about the compass.
Nicole, remember that Bronco Sport you had with the fancy, colorful stripes on it?
I do.
Well, now you can get those fancy stripes on the big Bronco too.
Woohoo! I like it. I loved how they looked. I think it still looks fabulous. See, I wasn't the one who thought it was cool because I stuck it on another car.
Yeah. No, I
People must have been buying it. Let's put it on another car.
Put another car. Who likes colors? People. Oh,
People, I like colors. I love how it looks. I loved how it looked on the little one. I love how it looks on the big one. I think it's awesome. I think it's fun when companies do stuff like this.
You know what I would like? If they were just varying shades of gray, that's what I would like.
I think it's the company that's got that nailed down.
Good job, Ford. We love colors.
And the freewheeling, they've also did the Bronco Sport have the stripes on the seats too?
Yes, it did. It had stripes on the seats as well. Yeah.
So they get that in the big Bronco. It comes let's see. There's the freewheeling. You can get the Sasquatch package on there, which has these 17-inch gloss black wheels. So you look at these wheels; they don't look like Steelies, but they are in fact steel wheels.
Are they
a bunch of slots in there. So they're pretty cool looking steel wheels.
It's kind of neat how they did that. I like it.
Yeah,
I'm so confused by the lineup now for the Bronco, all the different like animals and whatnot. This is Sasquatch. Can you get the manual transmission on Sasquatch, or you can't? You couldn't, but you could. Now you can. I don't even know. Can I get this with a manual transmission?
I don't know. And even if you could, have you driven the manual transmission Bronco?
No, is it bad?
Yeah, you don't want the manual transmission.
You don't want that.
That's unfortunate.
You want. It's not what you want, Robbie.
No.
Oh, how can you mess that up?
It's better with the automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Well, and especially if you're going off-roading. Yeah, going
off-roaded. I off-roaded as a kid with manual transmissions. It was fine.
Yeah,
this is not that car, Robbie.
The Bronco manual is kind of sloppy.
Oh, really?
The shifter kind of moves all over the place. It's not great.
Oh my! So it's like a '70s.
Yeah, it is like a first generation. It's like an original Bronco that way.
It's flopping, all like smacking you in the side of the leg whenever you hit a bump. You're like, what is going on?
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not precise feeling at all. But definitely if you're going to get a Bronco, consider getting the freewheeling edition. I like the stripes. We need more stripes like that.
It's sunset everywhere when you get the freewheeling edition.
Yeah. The Chevy Silverado, actually, GM in their third quarter sales, they picked up a lot of steam. I think their EV sales were up 60% quarter over, compared to the second quarter. They seem to finally have their production issues under control. And they're selling a bunch of Silverados now and some Sierra EVs. And for model year 2025, they're making some updates to the Silverado EV. It's got more range. They've done some optimizations. They've improved some of the components to improve the overall energy efficiency. It's still too heavy, but it's getting better. And sometime next year, they're also launching a version that is going to have a starting price of $57,095. And That one is going to have over 300 miles of range for that price point. And it's going to be a work truck. So that'll put it right now in the same ballpark, same price range as the extended range F-150 Lightning Pro. So the work truck version of the Lightning with the big battery is also about 57 grand right now. But the let's see, the Silverado EV with the max range. So this is one of the work truck versions. Will with the biggest battery. So that's the 210-ish kilowatt hour battery. Is going to be rated at 492 miles of range, and
That's a lot.
And the RST with the big battery is going up by 20 miles from 440 to 460 miles of range.
That only puts you back $97,000.
Yeah.
There's a $40,000 gap between the work truck standard range and the max range RST.
Yeah,
57 to 97. That's a Honda Accord gap between these two trim levels of this vehicle. Good for GM. I'm glad that they're finally getting everything together. I hear the Lyric was doing really well, which I'm a fan of the Lyric. So well played.
Yeah,
with your giant battery car.
And they're also adding the LT trim level for model year 25. And there's extended range and extended range with the premium package. So both of the LTs get the smaller battery. So that's a 20 module battery. So that's the same battery that's in the Hummer that you've got, the Hummer SUV. So I think it's like 175-ish kilowatt hours, somewhere in that range. And those start at 75, 195, and the premium package bumps it up to 82 grand.
Well, you get the tax credit for 7,500. Plus, you get the tax credit for if you're a business. If you buy a vehicle that weighs more than a certain amount, this is why you see so many F-150s on the road. Is because the people got them because of a sweet tax credit.
Yeah,
like heavy trucks are, I don't know, I don't remember why. I'm sure there's a real reason for it in 1970s when they came up with it, or whenever they came up with this tax credit. But yeah, that's why you see folks with businesses and they'll have a really nice F-150 or Silverado or whatever, because they get a really pretty sweet tax credit. I met some people who had a EV9 and they bought their F-150. They had a company and they bought their F-150 Lightning because they got the tax credit. They're like, we really like EVs. We want our whole business to be EVs, and we got the sweet tax credit on this truck. I'm just saying it's the company truck.
Well, the LTs, because they come standard with 18-inch wheels instead of the ridiculous 24-inch wheels that are on the RST. That's part of why they get better range. They get up to 408 miles of range for the base LT. And that also gets you 12,500 pounds towing capacity, 1,800 pounds of payload. But you still get the same power as the high end ones. So 645 horsepower and 765 foot-pounds of torque. So
you're saving money and you get the same stuff and more. Yeah, maybe just do that. That's fine. Yeah. You don't need big wheels, people.
So good updates.
More sidewall, smaller wheels. That's all I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah. Good updates on the Silverado EV for 2025.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Still too heavy overall, but it's getting better.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Early days.
Let's see. Let's see what the charging. Yeah. Okay. So the same thing here, 350 kilowatt charging, 100 miles in 10 minutes. Yeah. Just because it's such a large battery.
Mega battery.
Yep. All right. This week, Volkswagen unveiled the Tayron, which is their new mid-sized, I guess, sort of mid-ish sized SUV crossover. This one slots in between the Tiguan and the Atlas, or in Europe the Touareg, and it's available as a 3-row. And they unveiled it in Europe, and VW PR here in the U.S. sent out a note saying, "Yeah, we're unveiling the Tayron in Europe. We're going to get the long wheelbase 3-row version of this here in the U.S. to replace the current Tiguan, but it's not coming till 2026, and it's going to have some different styling, some different bodywork on it. But the version in Europe is available with a couple of plug-in hybrid powertrains, which get over 100 kilometers, so about 62 miles of electric range.
Is that the WLTP?
WLTP.
Yeah, so it'll probably be somewhere
50?
around 50.
45.
Yeah, 45 to 50 miles of electric range. It's
That's
still really
pretty
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Have you heard anything about any plans to bring the plug-in hybrid in the Tayron or the Tiguan here?
No, I'll see Volkswagen this week though. Tomorrow, actually. So
You driving the Buzz?
I am driving the Buzz. I'm driving it for Wired magazine.
Nice.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I'm driving the car that I'm like, but yeah, I know I'm going to drive it and I'm going to like it. And it's going to be, damn it, Robbie, what is wrong with you?
It's too expensive and doesn't have enough range.
I know, but I'm going to drive it and I'm going to tell myself, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. I wish it was, if it was 800 volt architecture with that range.
If it would charge crazy fast, it wouldn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's the thing. If it charged quicker, then it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Because I think when I think about driving down to LA and back, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to stop, but I think I stopped like 30 total minutes on my way to LA for charging, and that's including me driving 85 miles an hour up the Grapevine. I'm just like, oh, I could be efficient and I can like worry about. No, I got stuff to do. I don't have time, and I had to really had to rush to make sure I made it in time for the Tesla thing. So,
all right.
Fast charging's that's pretty. It's the best.
So the Paris Motor Show is coming up this week. Amazingly, they're still having an auto show in Paris. I didn't even realize that. There a bunch of automakers are introducing some cheaper EVs, at least for Europe, including Renault, which has the new Renault 5 E-Tech, which is an EV version, a new Renault 5 that kind of gets some throwback styling to the original from the 1970s. That's going to have a starting price of around 25,000 euros. And Stellantis has also got a new. Let's see, where is it? They're launching the Vauxhall and Opel Frontera, which is a mid-size electric SUV, which also is going to be priced around 25,000 euros, whether you get a gas engine or the electric. Both are hitting price parity now on their vehicles.
Done. I really like that Renault. I'm going to move to France or wherever I need to go to buy it and live there. Totally fine with that.
Yeah.
Back that somewhere, boy. You're all set.
Wherever you know what? You were just there. The food tastes better.
Food is fantastic. Yep, food's very good. Really, especially
drive around eating pastries and chocolate in my little bright yellow Renault.
I can't really fault that strategy, Robbie. So
yeah. When you guys come over to like do drive programs, I'll be like Ronan and I'll just show up. Hey guys, and whenever I see Ronan lives in France. Whenever I see him, did you drive here? He's like, no, man, it's a big continent. Every time I'm like, how far are you from here? He's like, man, it's like 8 hours. I took a plane.
The Frontera has got a 1.2 liter turbo engine with 48 volt mild hybrid system on it, and you can also get the electric version. And this is not this is based on Stellantis's smart car platform, which they talked about at their investor day last year or earlier this year, which is a lower cost EV platform. It's actually multi-energy platform like like all their others, most of their others. So it can build a BEV or build a gas or hybrid version of it. Let's see, the base model's got a range of 186 miles, 100 kilowatt charging, while the long range version will go 248 miles. Both of those are WLTP, so about 150 and probably 220-ish miles. But for 25,000 or under 20, or this one's actually 25,000 pounds, so about almost $30,000. But still same price for the hybrid or the battery electric versions.
Just saying. Just me and my Renault driving around.
He's still on the Renault. He hasn't.
I don't care about this Stellantis at all after seeing this. Whatever, Frontera, or what is it called again? Frontera. Yeah, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It looks like a Honda E, kind of. It's like a bigger Honda Honda. Honda's the guy from Street Fighter. It's a totally different thing.
Yeah. Well, while we're on Stellantis, I think was it last week? I think we talked, or last week or the week before, we talked about Stellantis starting a search for a potential replacement for Carlos Tavares. And this week, Carlos has confirmed that at the end of his current contract in 2026, he is going to retire.
Is anyone surprised that when that contract is up, they did not choose to renew it? Anybody? Bueller?
2026. Could you imagine knowing you were going to have a job for like another year, like some change, and like, well, guess I better start getting the resume ready.
Well, he is 66 years old.
I bet he's not. So yeah,
I thought he's
68, when he retires. So it's not bad.
All right, that's long enough, Carlos.
You're
fine.
Done. He's like, I choose to end this. I'm done. Yeah.
Man.
So who should be the new CEO of Stellantis?
Somebody who can make the company actually whole again.
Oh man, who should be the CEO of a company that makes cars is a tough question.
Jeez.
What's Mark Fields up to? No, that won't work.
No,
I talked to him a couple times. He's a nice guy. I just don't want to run in my car company.
I don't know. I have no idea. I wonder, honestly, like whoever, because there's so much chaos at Stellantis right now, who would like you're like as that level, would you want to run that company right now? Like,
I feel like it's like a challenge. It's like, you know what? I just climbed Mount Everest. I turned X company around. Now I'm ready to take on Stellantis. Like, who is turning around a company right now?
Isn't there a Chipotle guy turning around some company? Why do I think the guy that Chipotle guy? Wait a minute. He just bought another company. Like, wait, him. They need
assembling cars, assembling burritos. Basically the same thing, right?
Same thing. They're both lines.
He just took over Starbucks. He's the new star. He now is leading Starbucks, and he was
the guy who they have to pay for his plane to fly from wherever he lives to Seattle.
I missed that. I missed that.
They have to pay for his. No, I don't think that's a good idea for.
Is it Brian Nicole? Nicole. Anyway,
I don't remember
that guy. That's what he needs to be. He saved Chipotle now, and now he's gonna turn around Starbucks and give us back our amazing Starbucks. So whoever it is,
what's wrong with Starbucks right now?
It's not making money the way it should have, and it's no longer I'm going to put this in air quotes. No one can see a third space. From the idea of a third space,
I don't even know what that means.
Third space, the idea being you have your home, you have your work. Third space is like an area where you
go
can
hanging out in Starbucks,
hang out and chill. Remember back when Starbucks was just a youngling, that you would
go to Starbucks and do some work,
and you could sit and relax and hang out there. And now it's like there's not even chairs in a lot of them. It's not made for people to hang out.
Really? But I have worked in Starbucks before, like recently.
And it's not made to hang out the way it once was, so they've lost their third space charm.
So they hired a new CEO just to put tables in there. I feel like they could have just hired you, Nicole.
You mean whatever that is. No, but
Nicole just shows up and be like, "Hey, did you try putting chairs in there?
Did you try tables and chairs? Thank you, gentlemen.
Try tables and chairs. $5
million.
How about that?
Was there ever a time when Starbucks didn't burn the hell out of their coffee beans?
Never.
No, never.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe
when I can't drink Starbucks coffee, it gives me a stomachache.
I have to put like stuff in it. It's the only, I drink black coffee all the time, not at Starbucks.
I get chai lattes from Starbucks. I like.
I'm a London Fog myself. That's my thing, which is tea. I get a London Fog latte.
Yeah,
I like how this went from Stellantis
when I go there.
We've gone from Stellantis.
So who's gonna run Stellantis? Let's see who. Thomas from Polestar. He's
Thomas
available.
Engeleth?
Yeah, he's available.
Yeah.
All the cars are gonna look beautiful. That's all it matters.
They would look pretty. They'd be very, very beautiful cars.
Yep, yeah. He's gonna look a bunch of beautiful cars. He's a funny guy. He's fun to hang out with. Mm-hmm. He always showed me like insane cars that he sees whenever I interview him. Yeah. But now I probably won't ever see him again. Man, I don't know who's turned something around recently. No one. Well, there we go.
Not in the car business.
Not in the car business.
Nope.
Things are tough.
No one's turned anything around.
I think Henrik Fisker's looking for a job.
Yeah, get Henrik back there. He's
had such great success so far. Give him a shot.
He's got a proven track record.
He's already run 2 automakers into the ground. So
just let Henrik design.
Third time's a charm, right?
Stop, Henrik. Just design things.
Did you see the pictures?
You can make some really pretty things. Make pretty things and let someone else deal with all that other junk that clearly you probably don't even want to deal with. You just think you do.
Did you cover the chaos of their office last week? Some week
we did not. Well, let's talk about that, and also their bankruptcy. You want to talk about the office chaos?
Yeah, they apparently when they left their office, they did not leave it nicely. So the landlord, I'm going to try and pull it up as we're talking, is actually trying to go after them for money because so much garbage was left in the office. It was like they had, I'm trying to think, they're being investigated now by the Securities and Exchange Commission, and they have an office that was full of, some of it was like toxic stuff. Like the pictures are crazy. They have like clay models in disarray, like bits and pieces of clay models. There's drums of some kind of hazardous waste. It looks like a tornado ripped through the office. There's paper everywhere, bits and pieces of...
Yeah, the last stragglers out the door just tossed all their files all over the place.
Everything everywhere. And it's like, but there's drums of stuff that they say are toxic waste that have to be disposed of. And so now the landlord is seeking damages because they left the office in such bad shape. And I just looking the pictures, it was just... You're like, you really left it like that? Like, I get that you're going out of business, but guys, it's
you can sell some of this stuff. Yeah. Some of this stuff's worth some money. Like looking at the pictures.
The clay model of the Ronin that they showed at their product day at the end of last year, and also a half finished or partially finished clay model of the Alaska pickup.
Yeah,
it's chairs.
It's kind of sad. So I don't know. It was such a cool company. It still breaks my heart that it like, and just done.
It was a company. How about that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Fisker, just today, they got a deal approved as of last week. Their bankruptcy deal was in jeopardy because, part of the bankruptcy process was they were going to sell off, a couple of thousand cars that they still had left in inventory to a leasing company that was going to use them to lease out to ride-hail drivers. And late last week, the leasing company, the company who was going to buy the cars, went to the bankruptcy court and said, "Hey, you got to stop this deal. We're not going to pay for these," because the bankruptcy reorganization or the liquidation was based in part on Fisker getting the money for these cars, about $46 million, that they were then going to use to pay creditors. And the company said, we can't buy these cars because we can't get the data for the cars and all the software and everything transferred over to our servers, because these are, connected vehicles, they're software defined, and you need a bunch of data. and be able to run that, to be able to do software updates on the cars, things like that.
You need the whole back end.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Fisker said, we can't do it. We can't transfer this stuff. It's not possible. And, so the company was buying the cars, went to the court and said, well, look, if Fisker can't make this happen, the deal's off and you got no money to pay creditors. And so somehow magically today they managed to come to a deal and figure out a way to transfer everything over to new servers.
Wow. We can't transfer data. That's impossible.
Madness.
So Fisker is in the process of being liquidated and it will be no more.
It will be
At least-
gone.
yeah.
Although there actually is a Fisker Ocean here in town that I have now seen twice in the last 2 weeks. I saw it just the other day, and I saw it like a week and a half ago as well. So
Just can't wait till that thing breaks down, buy it for $5,000 with batteries out, and make yourself a resto mod. That's all I'm saying.
There we go.
Boom.
Install it into my my wife's Honda Civic. There we go. Honda Civic hatchback EV.
Woohoo.
Oh, quickest Honda Civic in the block in the state.
faster than even Type R.
Take that.
All right. So, Robbie, you have mentioned a couple of times today that you drove to LA. Why did you drive to LA?
I drove to LA because I got an invitation to Tesla's We Robot event. Now, I didn't get this invitation because there's no PR. I have a friend who works at Tesla who sent me a message like, hey, would you want to go to this thing? And I said, yes, I do. And that's how I ended up at the Tesla event. I was not officially invited as press. I was invited as a friend of someone who works at the company, which was nice of them. That was very kind of them to give me that, because there was probably no other way I was going to be able to get into this event. Not that I was actually trying, to be honest. That said, I went to the event and Elon Musk came out and he showed us a little car.
An hour late.
Well, there was actual medical emergency. Like there were medical people running. There was an actual fire truck there, or engine, with paramedics. So there was actually a reason this time. I've been to a lot of Tesla events and they all are late for absolutely no reason. No reason I can actually this time. For reals,
There was a reason.
There was a reason that I could see with my own eyes why the reason was. I hope that person is okay. I hope it wasn't anything too bad. That's it. Comes out. We're gonna have the Cyber car, which looks like the Cybertruck, and the Honda CRZ had a baby. And then the Robovan, which just looks like a postmodern
kind of Art Deco, actually.
Art Deco cyber van. Fine. The issue is that these are sort of things that we saw, like the van. Well, the Cruise origin before Cruise sort of imploded, and now those things don't actually go anywhere. I sat in it. It sat 10. It's supposed to seat 20. I'm assuming.
I think it was actually. Well, the pictures showed 14 seats.
There was three. Maybe it was 3, and then 2. Maybe it was 4. Anyway, I sat in the thing. There wasn't 20 seats, but it's fine. It felt like, where we replaced. I like the idea that Tesla is at least thinking about vehicles that transport more than a few people, because public transportation is transportation where you're able to get a lot of people into one vehicle and move them to an area. Because if everyone's just driving a single car or 2 people in a car, that doesn't do anything to traffic. we still have traffic. That said, the Cyber cab, it makes sense because I think there's some Uber data that shows that most rides are just really a single person. So as a cab, as a taxi cab, as a private entity, a two-seat vehicle makes sense. Apparently it has a big trunk. I don't know. I couldn't put anything in the trunk because that's not how that worked when we were there. If you're in
that's
there,
where the driver is.
Yeah, that's where the driver was probably hiding. And it has a screen. I rode in it. It felt like a CR a CRX inside with a screen. I rode around in it. It was fine. The problem is that none of this changes really much of anything, because Elon Musk has this. He just says things are going to happen, and then they just either never happen, the brand new Roadster that still hasn't come out, or they take so long to happen that you kind of forget about them. And in 2016, we're going to have autonomous vehicles. 2019, we're going to have autonomous vehicles, robotaxis by the end of the year. 2020, we're going to have robotaxis and autonomous vehicles by the end of the year. 2024, we're going to have robotaxis going in production in 2026. It's still based on vision. They're still using computer vision. I talked to Missy Cummings, who is a professor at, I forget what college.
Duke, I think.
And Missy, her whole thing is studying autonomy and robots, and she is like, nope, not with vision. Computer vision is not a thing you can do right now. They're still like 10 years away with this sort of system. She didn't say anything new. I talked to Greg over at, he's the manager over at M City. He mentioned that, there's no talk about accessibility. Those with wheelchairs, at least with the Cruise Origin, they talked about like you can use this with a someone
they had a prototype with a wheelchair ramp that slid out from the side, and
so there's a lot of sort of things that when you sort of look at this, it doesn't feel like it's anything new besides the van. It's the same thing we've heard from Tesla, and I know that they are transitioning or whatever. They're no longer a car company. They're going to be an AI company. And to be honest, it feels like just sort of a stock grab. Unfortunately for Tesla, that didn't, the investors weren't buying it. So I guess Tesla price went down on this announcement. I think the AI sort of stock boondoggle is sort of coming. It like NFTs before it is sort of coming to, because it's incredibly expensive to do AI, and there's no profit for forever. And that's sort of the same thing with robotaxis, is that robotaxis aren't going to be, if you brought a robotaxi out today, you wouldn't be making money on it for years. Whereas if you just put a person in a car to drive people to a place, that actually works right now and can be profitable. So it's sort of a weird like push for these robotaxis. That said, if that little car, that little cyber cab was just a regular car with some wheels, like a steering wheel and like some pedals, I think they would probably sell a bunch of them. The idea that they can bring this to market under 30,000 was also sort of like suspect, because the Model 3 was supposed to be 35,000 when it came out, and it was sort of for a little while like it was like the secret menu at In-N-Out, like you had to like know a guy to like get the car. Yeah, I will say that they had hot dogs there. That was awesome, and ice cream.
Okay.
So that was cool. And then they had the robots, which felt like they were just like the cars. I mean, none of those cars were actual for real self-driving, because they're in a very controlled environment. They are running on a route. Like you push the route, it tells it goes along the route. I was in a Model Y and then in the Cybercab, and the Model Y just kind of got confused, and it lined up behind cars at a stop that wasn't my stop, and it just sat there. And I was sort of making fun of it in the car with video, and then suddenly someone sort of walked out where that person was now. There was a reason why it just stopped, and as soon as that person moved, it went around. And later on in the evening, after I drove in the Cybercab, I was walked by the building behind where the big stage was, and there's a sign that says no photography, and I'd signed something that said, if I took photographs of something that said no photography, they could take my images. I'm like, all right. So I just looked in, because they left the door open, and the windows, you could see in the windows, and there were people in there watching the screens of all the vehicles driving around. So, and this is sort of the open secret about autonomous vehicles, is that they have to be remotely monitored in order to work correctly, because you need someone to help the vehicle when it gets confused.
Right.
And so, there's people there helping the vehicle when it got confused, like when it just got stuck when I was sitting in it, because it didn't know what to do to get around those people. So overall, it was it was a lot of the same thing, and I can understand why the investors just weren't that impressed. I mean, it was a cool event because there was a lot of, it's a lot of 80s nerds sci-fi stuff, which is nice, but it's on a movie lot, but it also like sort of created this world of make-believe, and in the real world there's chaos. There's people who are walking on the street, there's bicyclists, there's pedestrians, there's other vehicles that aren't being driven by Tesla people in a back room. And so I don't know. I feel like the money that they're spending on this could be better spent on creating that less expensive vehicle or updating their current lineup. I feel like the money could be better spent on things that could actually make continue to keep Tesla relevant as it's losing market share. And if your idea of like, well, my company's losing market share in the vehicles that we're building, why don't we make a robo taxi? Doesn't seem to me, that seems just like that's a bad idea. That's Henrik Fisker type like thinking. So maybe don't do that.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot, and yeah, AI is so incredibly expensive to run, and that's all autonomous vehicles are going to have to be running AI, and the idea that you're going to be able to make money off that is bonkers.
Well, and it's not just that, but it's also having those remote monitors and operators. You've got to have depots where these cars come in to get cleaned and serviced and everything. So there's a lot of other expenses that don't get eliminated, or in some cases actually get increased when you take the driver out of the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's cool that they wireless charge SAE J2954 wireless charging. It's a thing that's out right now. You can charge up to 11 kilowatts, up to 10 inches. That's great. Where are you going to put all these next to the robot that apparently cleans the car?
Yeah.
Or you could just have a guy in a car or a gal in a car who drives you around and knows the city and can like talk to you or not talk to you and knows the best ways to get places and can actually do the thing. And that already makes money right now. That's already a profitable business. That's why taxi cabs are still taxi cabs.
The whole premise of Tesla's stock valuation, I mean, the reason why it's worth more than the next dozen automakers put together is because there's this idea that with the cars that they have on the road, they're suddenly going to flip a switch in the software. They're suddenly going to become robo taxis, and Tesla's going to get all this additional, these hundreds of billions of dollars in passive revenue from customers, that send their cars out to serve as robo taxis while they're at work or while they're sleeping or, having dinner. And that's always been totally unrealistic. It's not going to work that way, especially with the system they have. But, it's
the reason why when I wrote my article, it should be going up on SAE probably tomorrow, is that I reached out to people who actually are people who work at, the gentleman who works at M City, Missy Cummings. I reached out to people who, this is their life. This is what they study. This is what they do. And when you reach out to them, we're like, this is the thing that happened. They're like, okay, well, I like the idea that they're thinking about more passengers, and I like the idea that they're thinking about a smaller vehicle that has less mass. That means that if there is unfortunately, if it does hit someone, it's not going to like smash them. Too many cars are really big. You get hit with an F-150 or any other full size pickup truck, you're not going to have a good time versus these sort of like very low and sort of knocks you over. I mean, you're still going to get hurt, but not nearly as bad. So they're like, okay, at least they're thinking about these items, but there's so many other things they're not thinking about, and the technology just isn't there. And this is from people from two completely different places.
Well, and basically almost everybody in the AV industry will agree, that you can't realistically do a safe automated driving system with only cameras. You need to have multiple sensor types.
And so, it's a lot of people work really hard on this, and instead of working really hard on something that could keep Tesla, in the black, which one is the money, black or red?
Black.
I think, and I think if, Tesla, if this car came out next year as just an EV, with the cyber cab with wheels and a steering wheel and pedals and all the bits. I think they would sell a ton of them, to be honest, because people would be like, I got the new Tesla, whatever they would call it, and the doors go up like this, and you can do all the things. It's a little sports car. It's sporty. They're like, yeah, this is the kind of cars people get in Europe. There's all this stuff that could happen with this vehicle, and it'd be far cheaper to build than the Cybertruck. And you can make money off of it. Instead, it's like, hey, we're going to make a cab in 2 years that may or may not work.
Well, one of the other things, there was a lot of criticism after the event. Why are they doing a 2-seater? It should be bigger. It should be a 4-seater at least. And actually, the idea of a 2-seat robotaxi actually makes a lot of sense, but not in the form factor that they showed. You don't want a low slung coupe. What you want is something that's more upright, that is easier to get in and out of, especially for older people. And that has a smaller footprint on the road, because if vehicles have a smaller footprint, then you have more space around the vehicles, or you can have more vehicles on the road. Ideally, fewer vehicles, if they're shared robotaxis, and they're taking up less space on the road. You can make the roads smaller. You can expand sidewalks and bike lanes and things like that. And I wrote a piece, the other day, making the argument that actually a 2-seat robotaxi does make sense, but with a different form factor.
Maybe a little taller.
Yeah, something like what the Waymo Firefly that they did back in 2012, 2013, their little 2-seat pod, or the GM Envy concepts that they had, much smaller. And if you've got a larger group, you can have multiple types of vehicles. It doesn't have to be just 2-seaters.
We've gotten, you go out with friends and they're like, okay, let's everyone like 5 different, there's 3 different Ubers that are all going to the same place. It's not something that we're not used to as a human, as a species, and as people who go out. And but I feel like that story sort of kills the idea that I don't have friends.
Yeah, but but the other thing you can do too, if these things are autonomous, you can have vehicle to vehicle communications, and you can, if you've got 5 people, you get 3 of these things, they can platoon together.
Yeah, that's true.
Or family with kids, they can all platoon together.
This is why I don't get, as a car guy, I'm not I'm not a fan of an SUV, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just but as a human who understands that other humans need to get in and out of cars, especially with an aging population, SUVs are great. Not because people are doing like big SUV things in them. It's because it's much easier to get in and out of a vehicle as you get older, because your bones and your muscles and all the other things that hurt on me probably hurt on someone who's 20 years older than me.
But what's also easier to get in and out of is a van. Even easier than an SUV.
Yeah.
Lower floor, upright.
One more time, vans are the best.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Absolute positive, the best. Anyway, so that was the Robo We something event.
Or actually, I watched the supercut of the presentation, and I believe the proper pronunciation of that is Robovin.
He said Robovin, and then he's like, some people call it Robovan, but I got Robovin. I'm
Robovin.
Like, right,
that's what he kept calling it.
It's like when the guy who invented the GIF now says, no, it's GIF. I'm like, no, it's not, because that's not how words work. It's not graphic, it's graphic interface. Just because I
still call it a GIF.
Well, you're wrong. That's not how words work.
You're wrong. He's decided.
Everyone's wrong but me. It's America. Have you guys?
You mentioned M City a couple of times, and talking to Greg. I've forgotten his last name as well.
I'm going to get Greg's last name. I have it written down somewhere.
Yeah. I went to M City on Tuesday, and actually Thursday night when the Tesla thing was going on. Instead of watching that live, my wife and I went out to the lake to look at the aurora. And I found that to be much better. But on last Tuesday, I went to M City. They were having an event to unveil M City 2.0. So M City it was the first purpose-built test facility for connected and automated vehicles. It's here in Ann Arbor. It's on the University of Michigan North campus, their engineering campus. It's about 32 acres of different types of roads and different infrastructure and some building facades, so you can do all kinds of different testing there. And it opened up in 2015. But the new version is the updated version is really interesting. They have developed a way for researchers that are not physically located in Ann Arbor to do testing there remotely. And they're combining communications and combining a digital infrastructure that they've built, which allows them to basically put to test real vehicles on the track, but to put around them virtual other road users, other vehicles, pedestrians, whatever, animals, whatever, and have them in this mixed reality environment. And it's really cool the way this works. And I had a chance this morning, actually, to chat with Dr. Henry Liu, who is the director of M-City and Greg's boss. So I've
Greg McGuire.
Greg McGuire, yes.
Yeah.
Greg McGuire. Sorry,
Yeah.
Greg. Sorry, I forgot your last name. He was wonderful to talk to. We talked for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, he was there on Tuesday as well. I didn't get a chance to chat with him, unfortunately, but I've talked to Greg in the past when he still worked at Ford. But Dr. Liu and I had a good conversation this morning. He gave us a little bit of the history and the background of M-City and explains how all of this new stuff works. And there's also an article that I wrote. And we also talked about something during his talk on Tuesday. He called on regulators to start developing a licensing test for automated vehicles. We have to, take a test before we can get a driver's license. We need some way to, verify that automated vehicles, can meet certain minimum standards before we allow them on the road. University of Michigan's working on this safety framework for AVs. One of the other people there at the event on Tuesday was from the Department of Transportation. I tried to chat with him, and he said, got to have somebody from our PR team before I can do any interviews. And so I reached out to set up an interview, and I got a note back from them this morning that, yeah, we're not going to comment on this right now, unfortunately.
They're the government. Tell us.
Yeah.
We pay your salary. Did you say I pay your salary?
No, I did not.
You had a chance right there. I pay your salary. The people deserve to know.
Yeah.
You could have done it.
So anyway, I talked to Dr. Liu, and after we say goodbye for this week, I will. You can keep listening, and we had a really good conversation. And he talks all about how they've done this mixed reality infrastructure at M-City to allow for remote testing, and also talks about how they propose testing, doing a driver's license test for AVs. So.
Yeah, when I talked to Gray, we talked about the idea that there's no driver's license. There's no testing for any of these companies that they have to pass in order to put these vehicles on the road. They just sort of self-certify. I'm like, hey, we're gonna do this thing, and state government's like, all right, cool. Well, don't kill anyone, and then that's it. There's no if I have to take a driving test to drive a car, I feel like that these companies should as well, in order to put the cars on the road where I live, and children, and kittens and dogs and bicyclists and humans and the occasional raccoon. Protect the raccoons.
Protect the raccoons.
Fortunately, nothing bad happened when Nicole and I rode in the cruise robotaxi in Austin last year.
We were okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you did have to walk 7 blocks. So.
Well, there was that.
Yeah, it was we can survive that.
Yeah. All right. Any other last thoughts from either of you before we call it a night?
No.
All right. Well, goodbye then, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
And so just want to start off with for listeners that are not familiar with what M-City is, Just give a little bit of an overview of what the facility is, a little bit of the history of it, and what is changed with MCity 2.0.
Yeah. Well, MCity is the test facility for MCity was opened in 2015. It was the world's first purpose-built proving ground for connected automated vehicles, and it was really designed in 2013 and then built in 2014. It was mostly funded by Michigan Department of Transportation and as well as the industry around mobility. And so since then, we've been, operating the MCity test facility. So there's many research projects and many industry members of MCity has been utilizing facility to test connected automated vehicles. And after that, there was also a number of facilities was being built around the globe, not only in the U.S., but also in Asia and Europe, similar to MCity, and then follow some of MCity's features, and so that they can test their autonomous vehicle technology locally. And then I want to mention MCity itself. It's also an organization. It's a research center under the College of Engineering at the University of Michigan. And so we do research on vehicle connectivity and vehicle automation as well. And we have a very robust membership, industry membership. So over the last 10 years also, there are probably over 120 companies as part of MCT's membership. And so we've been working with MCT members, industry members, and on some of the pre-competitive issues related with, particularly related with autonomous vehicle. And we also working together to apply for federal funding to get funding to support some of the research work at the University of Michigan as well. And so that's sort of the, a more general overview in terms of MCity as a facility for autonomous vehicle testing, and also as a research center on the University of Michigan, and to really fund and conduct research related with this technology. And so in terms of MCity 2.0, the 2.0 project really started 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, October of 2022. And that's funded by National Science Foundation. The goal of MCT 2.0 really is to develop digital infrastructure on top of the physical infrastructure we have at the MCT test facility, and to enable the remote access nationwide. What that really means is that not many schools like University of Michigan, a large public institution, we have the facility. Our researchers and students will have access to the facility for testing and validation of their algorithms. But that's very unique. Not many schools has access to this facility. And so that's why also in academia, most of the research, I would say, algorithm developed are tested in simulation. But we know there's simulation to reality. There's always a gap. So it will be desirable for researchers to be able to have a facility so that they can test out their algorithm in a real physical facility to further validate their algorithm. And so then MCT 2.0 is really intended to open up this test facility to researchers nationwide so that they can access the facility through MCT digital infrastructure. But the digital infrastructure is also connected to the physical infrastructure. So in this case, researchers can run their algorithm remotely on their own desktop and connect it to MCT's the digital infrastructure. MCT will be running the experimentation for them with the physical vehicles, physical infrastructure, and also the simulation model, the digital model, the infrastructure we built. and to help them to test out their algorithms. And then in this way, the intellectual property is remained by the remote researcher because they're running their algorithm on their desktop. And all of the testing data collected by either in the simulation, the MCD simulation, or MCD physical infrastructure, those are all automatically archived into the cloud. Only the remote researcher have access. So they can access the data after the testing and also see what's happening in MCD in real time. And so in this case, we run the physical piece for them, and then they will be getting the data afterwards. And so in this setup, the remote researcher will have almost exactly as the access as those researchers locally. They can access the facility, and then they can test out their algorithm, and in this way further help them to develop their algorithm.
Yeah, and I think I was fascinated to see the demonstrations last week. Combining simulation and physical testing. Because there's always things that you're going to catch that are difficult to do in a fully simulated environment. Where it helps to have some physical testing as well, but combining that, especially for automated driving, because there's so much risk involved, and it's so hard to reproduce the exact same scenarios as you're debugging and iterating on your software. And so, can you talk a little bit about how you combining virtual agents in that test environment with a physical vehicle that's driving around the track?
Yeah. And that's the key of this digital infrastructure. And so what it is Sam, you've probably been in MCD, so you see the miniature city. So in MCD, we have various infrastructure, right? So we have traffic lights, sort of freeway, pedestrian crossing, what you have in the really a miniature city. However, in MCD, we do not have background traffic. So there's no other vehicles. We can run some proxy vehicles and proxy pedestrians, but they are very limited, right? So we only have 1 or 2 or 3 at most, and so it's not really a realistic traffic flow environment. And it's you have all the infrastructures, but the traffic flow is missing up to us. So what we do is to use simulation models to generate traffic flow, and that include all type of vehicles and all type of pedestrians, and sometimes we can also generate animals, things like that. And so in this case, the simulation model will be running simultaneously together with the physical infrastructure. In fact, they are synchronized all together. So the traffic light in the physical infrastructure will be exactly at the traffic light in the simulation as well. And then the physical vehicle running within the MCD test track will be controlling one of the simulated vehicle as well. So one of the vehicle essentially is a replica of the physical vehicle. And then so in this case, when the physical vehicle is running within the test facility, they receive all the information from the surrounding virtual vehicles, and they have to interact with those. So it's not just, but although these vehicles, when by human eyes, we can't really see these vehicles at all, but the physical vehicle receive information from the virtual vehicle, and they have to be able to interact with it. For example, if you're doing an unprotected left turn, but there are a stream of virtual vehicles coming from the opposite approach, then you have to wait until proper gap appear, and then you can do the left turn. And so in this way, we're combining the simulated vehicle versus the real vehicle. And remember, we also have some proxies, right? So some of the real proxies are controlling some of the virtual agents as well. So in this case, really it's a mixed reality environment. Some of these are real, some of these are virtual, but more importantly, we run the physical test vehicles. And so in this case, we're trying to make the test driving environment as realistic as possible to test out their algorithms.
So the physical vehicle, the algorithm is actually running in the simulation environment and then feeding the control inputs to the physical vehicle that's on the track itself. And the
Yes.
physical vehicle obviously can't see these other actors on the scene, but the virtual vehicle can, and it's responding to that and then controlling the physical vehicle. Is that right?
Yeah. So let's just give you one more specific situation, more specific testing. So one of the things we do with University of Washington is they develop algorithm. They are simultaneously controlling a vehicle, which is under test, and also the traffic light. So they want to control the traffic light to give priority to this vehicle. Okay, so they're controlling both. Okay, so on their desktop, they have a algorithm to calculate what's the traffic light status and do I need to change it, and that's a command. And they also have a algorithm calculated in terms of the acceleration, deceleration of the vehicle. Okay, and so they that's their command coming from their algorithm. Okay, they send those to us through MCD Cloud, and then what we give back to them is what's happening within MCD, the physical infrastructure status of MCD, what's the current traffic light status, and things like that. We also send back to them in terms of all the simulated vehicles, the surrounding simulated vehicle status, and things like that. And so they use these, both simulated vehicle information, the physical vehicle information, the physical infrastructure information, calculate the command for the next time step. Okay, so once the MCD Cloud, we call MCD OS, once the MCD OS receive that, they send back the information to Washington. At the same time, they also forward that information, the control command information, through Verizon's 5G communication to the vehicles remote within the test track, okay, and also to the infrastructure, that can control the traffic light. Okay, so the vehicles will be running and the traffic light will be changed. The simulation will be running at the same time, but all the information sent back to Washington to do the test, to calculate the next time step. Yeah, so that's what's happening.
Yeah, it was fascinating to watch the demonstration live and having two monitors there, one showing a live view from a drone following the car, and then another one showing a virtual drone in the simulation environment. And you see the same vehicle, and they're totally in sync, but the one in the virtual environment has all these other vehicles and other actors around it and pulling up behind a stuck truck. It was pretty amazing to see.
That's right. And then I think this is one thing I do want to mention. This is really enabled by the advancement of communication technology. And so Verizon's 5G, we use their latest communication technology, and so that enables very short latency between even the West Coast to University of Michigan test facility, and so that's why we can enable this type of testing.
Yeah, I think I seem to recall somebody mentioned it was about 9 milliseconds of latency.
When we remotely control the vehicle, it's about 9 milliseconds.
Yeah, pretty impressive. So how many more researchers, schools do you expect to be using MCity now with this new capability?
Yeah. So we the project itself, we divided the project. The project is 4 years, and then each year has a milestone. So our first year is our own internal development. The second year, we develop these what we call example use cases, representative use cases, and we identify 5 different use cases. Really covers various topics within autonomous vehicle research, and then that's what we demonstrated on Open House. And then next year, we plan to have our so-called trial operation. And with our trial operation, we plan to work with 10 research groups.
Okay.
And so right now we have 5 research groups working with us to develop these, representative, use cases already. And then next year we plan to work with another 10, and so that we can either further develop these use cases or maybe some new use cases will come up. I should say on the day of our open house last Tuesday, we also put on RFP online. So there's on the MCT 2.0 webpage, there's an RFP, request for proposal, for researchers. And they can write a very simple write-up and proposal to us, basically explain to us in terms of what they plan to do, what they plan to use the MCT test facility. And so we will see, if we can help, we will help them to conduct their experiment.
Okay.
And then the last year, which will be a year from now, October of next year, we plan to do just the regular normal operation with the MCT 2.0. In that case, anybody can request, and then we basically just trying to fulfill that request. That this become more normal operation for this mixed reality testing environment.
Yeah, it's great. That so many more people will have access to be able to do this sort of testing, because as you said at the beginning, not very many places have a facility like this, and so it's great, for researchers and any school to potentially be able to test their ideas out in this sort of environment. I'd like to
just one thing to add to that is not only just the researchers from academic institutions, but also startup companies, national lab, or as long as within the U.S.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to move on now. Something else that you talked about last week was creating effectively a driver's licensing system for automated vehicles, which is something that I've personally been writing about for many years. How do we evaluate automated vehicles to verify that they're actually safe? Because this is very complex technology. And while, in principle, as an engineer myself, I know that the long term, it should be safer than human drivers, but, actually proving that is is actually really hard. So talk a little bit about what you're proposing and what's been already done at U of M in terms of a safety framework.
Yeah. So in the last few years, we've been really putting together what we call MCT Autonomous Vehicle Safety Assessment Program. So AV safety assessment. What it is, this our safety assessment program is we have 2 parts. The first part is what I call the driver license test, a driver licensing test. What that really means is that this is particularly related with federal government, is that we need to have some basic behavior competency test for these autonomous vehicles before they can put on the road. And that's important because we're not saying that after the basic behavior competency test, there will be no accident occurs for these vehicles. We're simply saying all of the vehicles at least need to satisfy some minimum requirement for autonomous vehicles. Well, in the U.S., as you know, we do self-certification for automotive. And so we don't really, require any OEM or autonomous vehicle developer to go through any testing protocol before they basically put on the road. Well, our argument is that autonomous vehicle is really different. Autonomous vehicle is a combination of the physical vehicle plus AI-based computer drivers. And in our current setup, our current transportation system, remember we do have driver license test, and for young driver, they have to go through that written test and also on-road test, and before they really can drive on the road. And we're not saying they will not have accident afterwards, but we guarantee we check in terms of their basic behavior competency. I think that's important. And at M-City, as we're working not only with academic institutions, but also the AV developers, we see the need for that. And we don't want the autonomous vehicle become a public hazard if they are deficient on some of the basic situation. And that really hurt the industry as well. So so that's one reason. And the other reason is that we want to help this when the autonomous vehicle company really want to deploy. At the moment, if you ask any cities, any counties, that's, let's say, autonomous vehicle company is going to deploy 100 vehicles on your road, they are very uncertain in terms of what's going to happen. They don't really know what's going on. Although most of the city will say we'll welcome this new technology, it helps in terms of saving lives in the future. But what exactly is going to happen right now, we don't really know. And having some assurance on some of the basic behavior competency is also very important for the cities. And so that's our second argument. The third one, I would say, from innovation perspective, at the moment, we really just rely upon autonomous vehicle developers shoulder all the responsibilities, right? So we don't check anything. We don't have a basic behavior competency test, a license test, or whatever. And so these companies have to shoulder all the responsibility. So if anything happens, it's their responsibility, right? So then you see what happens with Uber's accident a few years back, and then last year, Cruise Automation's accident. When these severe accident occurs, it essentially significantly impact their business. Uber sold their ATG essentially, and then Cruise shut down all their operations, although they are, sort of resume some of the operations this year. But you can see the significant impact. And it's actually hindered the progress of autonomous vehicle development. Although we know the technology hold the potential for really saving lives and improve quality of lives for many Americans. Mm-hmm. And so those are, sort of the reason we argue for these, driver license tests. And by the way, I want to mention, this is a global risk. This is not just the U.S.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And so there's China, there's Europe. And if you look at it in terms of regulatory space, these countries are ahead of U.S. And U.S. has the technology advantage, but I think we are behind on some of the regulatory framework or guidance. That's another thing I want to mention. So briefly, also, I want to come back to M-City's autonomous vehicle safety assessment program. Our first part is this license test, and we also have a part two. Part two we call driving intelligence test. What that really means is that for many consumers, we not only want to guarantee this vehicle has basic behavior competency, we also want to know these vehicles are, safer than human drivers. And so want to have, better safety performance. And so how can you do that? So the set of methodology need to be developed to really accelerate the testing, because at the moment we do not have a large scale deployment. We don't have, tens of thousands of autonomous vehicles on the road, so we can, from the real world we collect data in terms of number of accident occurs, and so that we can more accurately estimate in terms of accident rate or fatality rate or things like that. And so a driving intelligence test, particularly in a simulation or in the mixed reality type of environment, can really help to give an early estimate or prediction in terms of what will be the accident rate overall, and how they compare with human drivers in certain type of situations. And so actually in the last few years, we've been really developing this autonomous safety assessment program, including both parts, the driver license part and also the driving intelligence part.
So for the licensing part, how would that how would you propose that actually is done? Would that be similar to what we do for human driver's license tests, where it's a fairly prescribed sequence of things that you do? You go out with an instructor. You have, in this case, you might have somebody who's evaluating the vehicle as it goes through a sequence of prescribed maneuvers to see how it responds, or is there something more to it than that?
At the moment for MCity, specific to MCity, I think there are many different ways of doing that in terms of driver licensing test. But specific to MCity in our program, what we are trying to do is that we will run this in the closed test track. And then we will develop a set of scenarios according to the operation design domain these vehicles are supposed to run. For example, these vehicles are intended to run in the city of Detroit area and during what period of time and things like that. And then so we will look at in terms of specific area. We will look at in terms of what are the things they have to be able to handle. For example, they have to be able to handle, Michigan left. They have to be able to handle roundabout. And some of these are single lane roundabout. Some of these might be 2-lane roundabout. Things like that. So with this, we will develop a set of scenarios, and for each of the scenario, we will need to be able to generate the test parameters. So there will be some of these maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 background vehicles, and they will be running proxy, and then these background agents, their parameter are really generated through the real world data. And then we randomize these parameters. And then we do sampling of these. And so that each test might be different. So you can't really game the system in terms of that. And we'll see whether you will be able to, pass, whether you will be able to really navigate through all of these type of situations. If you result into an accident, then we'll record that, and then we'll give you a score on that. Okay. So that's how our driver license test.
Yeah, I think that gaming of the system is probably the hardest, maybe the hardest part of this is making sure that it's that the test is robust enough to verify the robustness of the systems. And then I would assume that the part 2, the driving intelligence test, would be done more in a simulation environment to have a much broader range of scenarios and different driving conditions.
Exactly. So what we in our ambition in terms of the future, each of the city might have a simulation model, and then, for example, we use MCity and this MCity simulation model will be able to generate all sorts of traffic situations. Morning peak hour, afternoon peak hour, whatever these, and raining and snowing, or whatever these, depend upon their intended ODD, right?
Yeah.
And so then in the simulation, you plug in your autonomous driving system, we generate all sorts of situations. And then one of the difficulty of these driving intelligence tests is that it has been proved that it takes so much time and so long in terms of the mileage to really come to, estimate in terms of accident rate. And so in the last few years, MCity has been developing the acceleration technology, right? So how we can accelerate and get to the accident rate quickly. And that's what we published heavily in the last few years in terms of methodology for acceleration of these tests.
Okay. I want to be cognizant of your time, so just one last question. What has been the response from regulators to the proposals and to what's been developed so far and to what you've proposed?
Well, we definitely in the active discussion with the US DOT. We've been really close collaboration with US DOT, various administrations, and some of our work has been funded by them. And there will be also a visit from National Highway Traffic Safety Administration this month as well. And so I think I can see they are cautious in terms of have any regulatory guidance, which I understand. But I think from both academic research and also our partnership with the industry, we see the needs of such guidance from the federal government.
Yeah, I know it's sure it's going to be challenging because the regulators traditionally are reactive as opposed to proactive, waiting until something goes wrong and then responding to that as opposed to anticipating what can go wrong. So I really appreciate your time today. It's been a great conversation. And best of luck in trying to make progress, especially on the safety assessment part of it. You've got a great facility. I've visited it multiple times, since it opened, and some great work being done there. And MCity 2.0 was really
you were
promising.
there, right? I know you were there.
Yeah, I think I was there at the original open house in 2015, and I've been there a few times since then. And I was there last Tuesday as well. I like to see that sort of progress, facilities like MCity and of course ACM, which is, not far away as well, doing some good work there. Congratulations on the progress and good luck on moving forward with all these efforts.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Luke.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.